Hello, welcome. Today we're going to go through a short video on basically just the properties of equations and rewriting equations with multiple variables in them. We're going to be solving one equation when there are for a specific variable when there are multiple variables in that equation. Sounds really complex. It's really not that hard. So let's go through. I'm a big fan of going through some practice problems and allowing you an opportunity to practice and get in there and just try it and try it. And as you try it, it will become easier. So let's kind of just jump right into it. This is just a little bit of review. I would like you to do these two problems here. Again, I'm big on practice. So I want you to get in here and I want you to solve these equations. I want you to solve number 1 for x and I want you to solve number 2 for k. That we've covered in the last lesson as well as previous. So this should all be reviewed. So solve those for x and for k right now, if you will. Push pause on the video after you've completed these two problems, then come back in and push play again and we'll discuss them, okay? Okay, so as we're doing this, these are properties that we're going to be using today. Parts of an equation, like if we wanted to get rid of the 18 on this side over here, it's a positive 18, so I just need to subtract 18. 18 minus 18 gives me 0, so then it's gone from that side. We're going to use those same properties today as we solve these more difficult problems, okay? And same thing here with the 5 times the quantity k minus 3. We distributed this 5 to everything inside. We're going to be using that today as well. Okay, so now let's kind of get into some problems that we're going to be doing today. Okay, so like I said, we have multiple variables. We've got an m and an n here. Our goal is to solve this equation for m. In other words, we want to get m all by itself. Let's back up just a little bit here. We solved these equations. We solved this one for x. We got x all by itself. Same thing with this one. We solved this one for k. We just get k all by itself. So similarly, what we're going to try to do here is to get m all by itself. That means we have to get rid of everything else on that side of the equation, and we need to move it, okay? We need to move it to the side that doesn't have the m on it. Okay, so I've got this, and just like we solve a traditional equation, typically we start with the things that are furthest away from the item that we want to get all by itself. In other words, this m, this one's a lot further away. I'm just going to kind of start with this. That's kind of a general rule. It's not an exact rule, but it works about 95% of the time. So I want to get rid of this 4n first, okay? That's going to be my easiest. Later on, I'm going to have to get rid of this 2, but let's get rid of this 4n first. Okay, so we're going to solve this the same way we would solve a traditional equation, right? If I have a 4n on that side and I need to get rid of it, I need to get rid of the 4n on this side. I need to, in order to do that, I would have to subtract 4n from this side. Okay, and as we subtract 4n from this side, I have to do it to both sides. Otherwise, I change the value of the equation. We don't want to do that. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 4n from both sides, right? Because over here on the left, if I subtract that 4n, that's going to get this 2m all by itself. Now, of course, 4n and 26 don't combine at all. So when we do that one, here we go. We've got 2m is equal to negative 4n plus 26, right? I couldn't combine those two. So I just leave them alone. That's as much as I can do. Okay. Now, the goal of this is still to get the m all by itself. So if I want to get the m all by itself, I've got this 2 in front of it. So what do I need to do in order to get rid of that 2? Well, we have to kind of look at it and go, well, this is 2 times m is equal to negative 4n plus 26. So 2 times m, the opposite of that is division. So if I divide both sides by 2, that's going to get me m all by itself. So let's try that. I'm going to divide both sides. Now, when we do this, this gets a little bit tricky because the part that's on the right-hand side, okay, so this entire quantity must be divided by 2, not just the 4n, negative 4n, or not just the 26, but both units. But let's look at what happens here. 2m divided by 2 is really just 1m. Now, in math, we don't write the 1m, we just write m. Okay, so let's do that. So m is equal to, and here we go, negative 4n divided by 2 plus 26 divided by 2. That's what I say when I'm talking about that entire other side. Both of these quantities, if there were 3 quantities, we would have to divide all 3 quantities by 2. Now we just need to simplify. Negative 4n divided by 2 is negative 2n, and then 26 divided by 2 is 13. So our final answer here, this is when we get m all by itself, would be m is equal to negative 2n plus 13. Okay, now I want to give you a chance to kind of work through this a little bit. So we're going to be solving these the same way you've solved equations in the past. But let's give you some practice on this. So I'm going to put up two problems here. Here are our two problems. Now on these two problems, what I would like you to do is to take some time and I'd like you to solve both of them. Okay, I'm going to give you a little hint on number one. We're solving for k, so that means we need to get k all by itself. So the 12 is a little further away than the 3. I would start with the 12, move the 12 over, and then you're going to divide by 3. Okay, I'm not going to give you any hints on number 2. I want you to work through these. So what I'd like you to do now is push pause on the video. And then I'd like you to work through both of these problems. After you've worked through these problems, then I'd like you to come back to the video and push play so you can verify your answers, okay? Verify that you've got the correct answers. So do that now. If you'll push pause now, and then after you complete it, come back. Okay, here we go. Here are our answers. So this one, like I mentioned, we're going to move the 12 over to the other side. As we move the 12 over the other side, then we're going to divide both sides by 3, and you're going to divide the entire right side, in this case, by 3. And as you divide those by 3, it comes out really, really nice. They're even numbers. They're whole numbers, which makes it really, really nice. Number 2 was not quite as gentle, but number 2 is extremely important, and it still works the same, right? We're doing basically the same thing. I needed to get h all by itself, so I get rid of this 3g, and the way I do that is subtract 3g from both sides. Then eventually I'm going to divide by 7, and as I divide by 7, I have to divide both sides by 7. There we go. And unfortunately, I've got a negative 3g here divided by 7. I really can't reduce that much. So here's what I ended up with. Okay, negative 3/7 g. Now you'll notice the g is written on the side. It can be written both ways here. On the homework, it's going to be written in this fashion. It's going to be multiple choice. But on the homework, it'll be written like this. Just understand that these two quantities here are equal. Whether the g is on top or on the side, it really means the same thing. Because this is the same thing as negative 3/7 times g over 1. So either way you want to do it there is fine. Okay, I want to give you some more practice. Let's try 2 more problems here. Okay, so I'd like you to push pause on the video now, work these out. After you've identified and come up with a solution, then I'd like you to come back and push play. And as you do so, you can check your answers. Okay, let's look at these. These are just a little bit different than the ones that we just did, although not that much. P divided by 4. Well, before, let's back up one notch here. Before, we had this number here, and we had a 3k. Well, if in order to get k all by itself, I needed to divide both sides by 3. Well, the opposite of that is going to be what we just did. Here, this is p divided by 4. Okay, so p divided by 4, in order to get rid of this 4, I'm going to have to multiply both sides by 4. Okay, so that's what we did here. I multiply both sides by 4. 4 times 4p divided by 4 is just p, 1p, right? But we don't write the 1 in front of it. It's just plain old p. Well, if I multiply this side by 4, that means I have to multiply this entire other side right here by 4 as well. So I distribute that to everything on that side, and that will give me my final answer over here. Okay, that one was really nice. This one got a little bit more complex just because in this case, we are solving it for z, but I've got x's on both sides. So I just need to combine my x's. Not too difficult there if you've worked through the other two. That one really wasn't too bad. But anyway, just double check your answers here. You want to make sure that you got the right one. Here it gets just a little bit complex because we're dividing by a negative 3. So 15x divided by negative 3 would give me negative 5x. I've got a negative 15 divided by negative 3 gives me my positive 5. So these double negatives here, because this is essentially multiplication, right? Negative 15 divided by negative 3 gives me a positive 5. So, okay, I've got 2 more that I want you to try. So try these 2. I'd like you to push pause on the video right now and then work these out. Hopefully it's becoming a little bit easier for you. I will have some additional examples on your homework, of course, but hopefully it's becoming a little bit easier and you're starting to kind of see the process. But anyway, push pause on the video now, and then I'd like you to work these out. And then once you get them all worked out, come back and push play so you can check your answers.
Okay, check your answers here. These are very similar to the previous ones. We just want to get a little bit of extra practice on this is the big thing, right? So just make sure that you're first distributing everything to inside of the parentheses. After you distribute everything to inside the parentheses, then you want to solve this one for whatever the variable is. In this case, we're trying to solve it for x. It means we got to get all the z's over to one side. Okay, and it is okay to have fractions in our answer. There's nothing wrong with that. So hopefully this video was helpful. I will have additional problems on homework that are different than these, so you can get just a little bit extra practice if you'd like. But if you have any other questions, please let me know.